Kalach-on-Don. There are small rivers here in the Volgograd region. It is very vast, but the population is far from being large. The population of the region is 2 million and a half, a little bit more, 2 million and a half. Most of the population live in cities and towns. 2/3 of the population live in cities and towns in Volgograd and Volsky and some other towns, and only 1/3 lives in the country. And there are 33 districts in the Volgograd region, 33 of them. And now we are in Gorodishensky district. It is close to Volgograd, and in all the districts they grow wheat. Wheat is really nice in the Volgograd region. They nearly don't grow rye because the climate is not proper for growing rye in the region. The summer is too hot, and you see the ground, the soil. The soil is very poor. You see it's not dark, it's a little bit brownish, yellowish, this soil. And the wheat, we can grow nice wheat, by the way, and it is very nice for this grain for producing pasta, for example. Italians 100 years ago, they exported our wheat to make their pasta. They understood how nice our wheat was. And our region is not bad for agricultural works, but sometimes when there are no rains at all, then there are no crops, and that's why there was hunger in the lower Volga in the 20s of the 20th century. They also grow cattle, but not much in the Volgograd region. And people of 100 nationalities, more than 100 nationalities, live in the Volgograd region and in Volgograd. Many nationalities, most of them Russians, but there are also Tatars. There were many Germans in the Volgograd region, and there are Kazakhs, there are Ukrainians, and many other nationalities. As I told you already, there were lots of Germans in the lower Volga. Catherine the Great, she invited Germans to come and to live in the lower Volga, to live without paying taxes, and there were some other nice things for them to enjoy here. The service in the army was not obligatory for them, and they lived here, but now most of them have gone back to Germany. And it's no wonder, because during the Great Patriotic War, many of them had been deported from the lower Volga and to Siberia and to the north, and they suffered their bitter want. But I always say, Germans, they may be put in the desert, but they'll arrange everything, they'll grow vegetables, they'll enjoy life, and their life will be in order. And so they managed to survive, but of course people can't forget about deportation. It's impossible for them. 2 years ago, I had a German group from Norilsk. Norilsk is in the far north of our country, and some of them were old, and they were for 5 days here, and they had been deported from our region. And one of the German women, when we were going on boat along the Volga, she saw the Volga and she started weeping. And she had been weeping for 2 hours while we were going on boat along the Volga. She remembered the Volga because it was her dear river. She was born on the Volga, and then she was deported from here. And of course people can't forget about it. And when they had an opportunity to come back to Germany, to their motherland, they did it, and they went to Germany.
They got German citizenship right away.
And now there are Germans, but not many of them in the Volgograd region and in Volgograd. But they all speak German, they know the language, and they go to the church. We've got the church in the southern district in Volgograd. We call it Kircha, and it is one of the oldest buildings in Volgograd. It was built in 1772, that Kircha. Oh, but of course I can be speaking about nationalities for a very long period of time, but I think I'd better tell you that these lands, they were very nice for the Mongols. A little bit about our history. In the early medieval age and in medieval age, there were no Russians here. We think that Volgograd is a Russian city, and that's why for Russians were here always. No, of course not. I'm not speaking about the time 2,000 or more ago, 2,000 or more years ago, but let's have the early medieval age. For example, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th centuries. In the 7th and the 8th and the 9th centuries, there was a tribe here, people, and we call them Khazars, and then there were some other tribes, and in the 13th century the Mongols came to our region, and they had their state in the Lower Volga, and we call their state the Mongolian Hood. The Mongols, they loved our steppe. Because they were always on horseback, and they enjoyed riding here, and it was very nice for them. And as much as they loved the steppe here, so much they hated the forests and woods in the center of Russia. They hated them because when they went there to collect contribution in the forest, there were Russians who wanted to catch them, to kill them, and also it was impossible for them to ride on horseback in the forest. It was quite impossible, and that's why they hated forests and they loved our steppe. And in 1380 there was the battle between the Mongols and the Russians, and the Russians won. And then the Mongols became weaker and the Russians became stronger, and they began to build fortresses on the Lower Volga. Now we are in Novy Rogachik. This is the name of the village. On our right there is an elevator here, And Novi Rogatic, its history is rather interesting. At the beginning of the 20th